Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SB Reacts, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named TJ Gurn, titled Where Do You Go? And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on Spotify, with the art up here on the screen. Apparently a folk Americana artist based in Salt Lake City, Utah, so that's cool, and we're going to listen through them from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. And we'll also be giving the song a score out of 10 based on various music criteria at the end, but until then, let's go. What do we got?
Where do you go when you're lonely? But darling, I wanna go with you. I wanna be there when you're crying in the rain. I will love away all your pain. Well, I heard it was Chicago. You drank the city dry. And ooh, baby, that windy city has got your cheeks as red as wine. Well, now you want
Great development there.
to go someplace new, always searching for a different point of view.
Fantastic bass response as well.
So you packed it up to New York, big Latin limousines. You wanna publish your book and be on Time magazine. Well, that apple is rotten brown, and know that city made of cold steel let you down.
Great use of falsetto here, I like it.
Settle up in Colorado to feel that Rocky Mountain high. And get out in the country so you can ride between the lines. But you've been feeling low, 'cause you've been getting high. Always putting them wheels down and running from the inside. Ooh.
I love the call and response between the vocals and the slide guitar as well. It's fantastic.
You don't have to go anywhere, but darling, I love you everywhere. And you don't have to go anywhere, but darling, I love you everywhere, everywhere. So where do you go when you're lonely? Well, darling, I wanna go with you.
Dude, that is a beautiful song. That's actually touching. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. And so welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named TJ Gurn, titled Where Do You Go? And just letting you know before we get into it, I gave this track an overall score of 8.1 out of 10, which I feel was a really positive score. I really enjoyed listening to this song. But first of all, what do we think this track is about? I think that this song is about someone who is watching their love interest, someone they truly care about, decide what to do with their life. They talk about going to like New York or something along the lines there and trying to either like publish a book or get on the magazines, and they've got ambitions that they want to fulfill, but at the same time, they have maybe gone there and realized that they have felt low because they've kind of been getting high, in the sense that I think that even if they've found what they're looking for, they're not necessarily still feeling fulfilled. And so it's a discussion, I think, on the part of TJ Gurn, really sort of saying, you know, I look at you going through this stuff, trying to figure out what to do with your life. And I suppose what I want to say to you is that I will love you wherever you go. And, you know, where do you go when you feel lonely? Because I want to make sure that I'm there too. And I think that it's a story that develops throughout the piece in a way that is incredibly heartfelt and meaningful. It doesn't show its cards immediately, and I adore that. And I just think it's so incredibly well structured in that regard, lyrically as well as musically. But also, I just want to sort of emphasize, one of the things I really appreciate about this track is the vocal performance. I love the warmth and the glow of it, the kind of twang to it, the way we express ourselves in a way that's very sort of like down to earth and soothing and caring and expressive in a way which is not never too over the top. It's kind of like someone's trying to have a quiet conversation with you about it. It's very easy to listen to, but not in the way where it's you know, like uninterested, like, but not in a way where it ever gets close to being uninteresting or too sort of like, how do I describe it? There's just something really special about it because there's enough space between vocal parts, and there's like call responses with like slide guitar parts and just instrumental sections where we allowed it to be spaced musically, performance-wise, to allow for TJ to come in and it be meaningful and fresh. But I appreciate the quality of the vocal performance in regards to head and chest voice, the way we sort of like allow ourselves to just be alone in the mix as well. We never overcomplicate with like harmonies, and I think that makes it more of a sort of a solo conversation as well, with the person who is addressing the story to. There's clearly just a lot of thought put in a situation where the production is clearly, you know, it's fantastic, and we could have potentially done more, but we didn't want to. We understood that minimalism in that regard can sometimes make it seem a bit more authentic, and ultimately it was just a really effective performance on the mic. In addition to the quality of the storytelling in there, I think that it's also the way that we have a simultaneous consistency with the acoustic guitar strumming, dun 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 dun. That kind of rhythm is constant throughout the piece, or at least for the majority of it. But it's everything else you add to it as you develop. It's the development, the structure of the track, and again, the simultaneous consistency of that with everything kind of building up into a larger sort of emotion. And there's a great tone to that acoustic guitar with those open chords there. I'm not sure whether we're using a capo or not to go up a bit higher in the upper register of the instrument, but I just love again, it has a similar glow and brightness and a sort of a refreshing nature that the vocals do, whilst also being quite homely. But I think that if we'd relied on that for the entire 4 minutes of this piece, it might have just been a little bit too much consistency there. So it's really powerful when we have those slide guitars come in as they continue to get a bit more kind of like articulate and endeavored as we progress. The drums and the bass, especially with that response, is fantastic in that midsection. Because I think having the drums and the bass come in at that point there after a verse of it is like, oh, this is a new chapter, this is a new kind of like sequence, what's going to happen next? Even if there's not a whole lot of complexity to the way that the drums are being played there with chord note accents, and the bass is reinforcing root notes within the chord progressions and stuff like that. It's all just very supportive, and it maintains focus on TJ Gurn when he's not calling responding with those slide guitars, or the falsettos are calling responding with the slide guitars. I need to mention that his falsetto was great too in those sort of more melodic, vocally melodic sections. There's also the power of having those slide guitar parts kind of as a sub-layer in certain moments to kind of add more of a kind of a hint of like the memories maybe being like vague but coming to the forefront as we go through the piece. And I appreciate that little like that those thoughts and intricacies within it. And we do have several chord progressions and bass lines within this track. It's not just the same chord progression the entire time, and it helps you understand when there's a turn or where there's a repetition or something, but it always grows and never to a point where it becomes too much. There's a relative intensity to this piece that is kept, but again, with the way that we're singing, with the way that we're strumming the guitar. It's just that we have more to keep us kind of like connected to it. And I think that the choice of those major or minor chords, without trying to be too complicated with any sort of like extensions aside from a few maybe harmonies or chord choices there, it never is anything other than trying to sound appealing and welcoming. And I think it's just the choice of tones and textures that helps with that alongside the chord progressions. And there's no harsh edges within it melodically, harmonically, or anything like that. There's a nice solid groove to it that follows you along, not trying to rush you through it. And it's very sweet. I think the final thing I want to sort of like discuss really quickly is the quality of the studio production here, where I think it's commercial grade. The vocals are recorded phenomenally, great sort of like clarity to them. You know, you can just imagine them sing like in a room to you. It's just really well captured. The guitars are fantastic. I'm not sure whether they're like DI'd or recorded with condenser mics or both, but either way, the guitars sound fantastic, whether it's the slide or the acoustic. And the bass and drums and everything else are wonderfully textured. There are sub layers and main layers, so there's attention paid to that within the mixing section, with things really well EQ'd, as well as things spread out around stereo field as well. I dig that. I like the space and that the music surrounds you in the headphones. There is dynamic range. Things are not the same loudness the entire time despite the intensity. Like, things do sound a bit more subtle depending on what you're adding or taking away, but things are also well glued, and it's nice and loud without pumping, without it being too heavy or suffocating. You know, clearly it's a very gentle sounding track. It's just not, it's commercially mastered. It's a good loudness for release. And so effectively, this is my review of this track from an act named TJ Gurn titled Where Do You Go? And hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and a Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as we need the help more than ever thought of crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.